Turns out, I'm officially old enough to remember the struggle, which is apparently a medically recognized term for the stage of life when the technology of your youth is likely to be seen in a museum. Picture this. Me, a young audiophile in training, wielding a blank cassette tape like a sacred scroll, hovering over the radio like a hawk, ready to pounce on the record button. Every time I'd hear a new song on the school bus radio, it was my mission to capture it. I'm talking meticulous dial adjustments, praying to the radio gods for minimal static, holding my breath, hoping no sibling, parent, or rogue doorbell would dare interrupt my recording. Those were the days when mixtape was a verb and patience was a finely tuned skill. Back then, the radio was our lifeline, our only portal to new music. And for me, it was more than just listening. It was about creating my own mixes, my own soundtrack, a unique sonic tapestry that reflected my world. Those fragmented sounds, those voices, those rhythms, they weren't just music. They were a blueprint, a language, a way to understand the world. They seeped into our subconscious, shaping our perspectives, our dreams. And just like those crackling frequencies, our own histories, the static of our past, can shape the signal we transmit to the world today. Sometimes it takes years, a lifetime even, for all those disparate pieces to come together to form a clear, resonant signal. There are moments, though, when it all clicks, when the static fades and you realize that every influence, every experience, every crackle and pop has led you to this magnificent moment. This moment where you can stand unapologetically and say, "This is who I am." Our guest today, Lerron, is a testament to that. He discovered his voice through the rhythm of hip-hop and the kinetic energy of breakdancing. He navigated the static of his past, the fragmented sounds of his childhood, the meandering melodies of life, and found a place where he can say, "This is who I am." No static, no shame, just pure, unadulterated truth. And as you'll soon hear, Lerron holds a profound gratitude, a deep acceptance of everything that comes before, because as he'll explain, it's all part of the mixtape that makes Lerron who he is. Just like the choir is a mixtape of diverse experiences, gifts, and talents. Oh, and speaking of talent, just before this interview, during a Monday morning rehearsal, Lerron decided to just casually drop a next level rendition of Rapper's Delight, like absolutely blowing the band and the choir away. Seriously, jaws were on the floor. We were all on our feet, just cheering Lerron on. Absolutely amazing. And that's how we found out just how incredibly skilled this guy is. So, in addition to recently joining the choir as a tenor, Lerron mixes his life soundtrack as a house DJ, weaving his past into a vibrant present. So, welcome to Sounds of the Sidewalk, a podcast produced by Voices of Our City, a nonprofit using music and the creative arts as a focal point as we support people impacted by our housing crisis. It's important to state that while you'll hear us talk about the experience of being unhoused, this podcast is not about homelessness, but our collective humanness. And today, you're listening to the Lerron Mix.
You're listening to
Sounds
of the Sidewalk.
All right. So, welcome to Sounds of the Sidewalk. We're about to start.
Opening up this season, now we have a very special guest that we are very excited for you guys to meet today. His name is Lerron.
Yeah.
Welcome in.
Thank you very
for
much
coming
for having
and joining
me.
us.
Appreciate it. No, I really appreciate being invited. It's an honor, actually. It was a huge honor.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
Cool. So I'm very interested because I know you've rocked a couple shows with voices and you've done some emceeing, some moving of the crowd. So where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in the Bronx, New York, during the 1970s. I think I was telling you guys off microphone that I grew up alongside hip hop. I was about 7 years old, 8 years old maybe, when Sugar Hill Gang came out with Rapper's Delight. That was the song that really, I mean, MCing and hip hop culture was there before them.
Right.
Okay, they just became the kind of pop cultural expression of what was already going on. I was too young to really know the details of it, but I saw it all around me. I remember being in the South Bronx, and you know, you have these
Bronx.
the South Bronx. KRS-One still kicking it. Yeah, so you'd have these playgrounds of the public schools, and they would plug all of their necessary equipment, DJs, microphones, whatever, speakers, into the street lamps.
Yeah.
And then there'd be these parties, and I vaguely remember just seeing that and just being there. I don't remember what I thought or felt. To me, it was probably just normal.
When was it when you like really like as you grew up? What was like the first rap group that you were like, you know, where you were conscious and you were like feeling the movement of hip hop?
Oh, I mean, that would definitely have to be Grandmaster Flash and
Grandmaster
Furious
Flash
Five,
and the Furious Five.
and the
yeah.
message, don't push me, cause I mean,
Close
you know,
to the edge.
yeah, and I'm old enough at that point, you know, because
Yeah.
you know, you're like 11, 12 years old, you're conscious and aware of what's going on, you know, like you'll know what's up, and so it was them, it was Beat Street. Like we talked about
that's one
before,
of my favorite
1984, one of my favorite movies to this day. I was probably about 12, 13 when that came out. And then right after that, it was Run DMC. And then once Run DMC blew up, and then
Beastie
Crush
Boy.
Groove, like,
Crush
you know,
Groove, yeah.
extend, you know, brought LL into the picture. And I was a huge Prince fan back in those days as well too. And so
Purple
Sheila E.
Rain,
was in, you know, so all of that, like, I would say hip hop, Prince, and pop music in general. Like, I remember radio stations did not distinguish between, like, okay, we're only going to play hip hop, we're only going to play pop, we're only going to play this. They would, like, 92 KTU in the Bronx, WBLS 108.5, they would play everything.
Yeah.
And then in the mid 80s, that's when, around 85, 86, that's when things changed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big hip hop fanatic. I'm an MC. I've been rapping for a long time. I remember the first time I seen Beat Street. My dad didn't want to take us to watch it, right? But we were like, this is after Sugar Hill Gang, and then Run DMC, and then Beat Street came, and we went to the drive-in, and my parents were watching this movie, but all of us went to the side, and we were watching Beat Street at the South Bay drive-in, right? No sound. We were just watching the whole movie, like amazed and in awe. All the four elements.
You didn't get the speaker into the car?
No.
Y'all were like kind of like outside, just
we
peeping
were outside
it.
by the
Yeah.
fence, just watching the movie.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is dope.
Once
And,
you see them breakdancing and battling,
Yeah.
you don't care. Like, what you just want to watch that. You can envision in your head like what's going on in the sonically speaking.
Then I was a b-boy back in the day, breaking. I was part of a group called Wild Work, so I grew up breaking, and then that went out for a minute. Came back
in
though.
the 90s,
Yeah.
2000s, of course. Everything does. It
I
always
remember I
cycles.
was at a big hip hop underground, and I seen Zulu Gremlin from West Coast Rocksteady.
Okay.
And
I didn't know
man,
that existed.
I was like amazed. There was this big crowd, and there was like a circle. So I'm like, what's this all about, right? I go over there, and I see breaking come back into effect. Like, maybe it never went away. Maybe it was still around for a long time.
Who
but
knows?
I seen this dude, and man, I was blown away by the moves he did. He backflipped and into a 1990, and then he did all this, and then he got up and did his b-boy stance. I was like, whoa! I was like tripping out, and I would go in there and break just for fun, But I grew up hip hop, so it's cool.
Yeah. I did the breakdancing thing, but not to the level that you saw in Beat Street or I don't know if you remember the movie Wild Style. That was
Wild
another
Style,
one.
yeah.
That was more about the graffiti culture of it,
Yeah.
as opposed to the to the dancing, but I was good enough to impress people that really didn't know it. You know what I mean? So in other words, like I'd go to like a summer school program like for nerds up in Massachusetts, and like we'd come in and do our thing, and everybody'd be like, "Oh my God, you're so amazing!" And like there'd be a kid from Korea who would come in and make us look silly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, it was still cool enough for them. You know what I mean? Because it's a different demographic, different kind of cultural thing from where they're coming from, you know, in the burbs of Massachusetts, as opposed to, you know, being from the city. I really loved it. I hate New York. I love that I grew up in New York. I love that my parents left Florida to go to New York and try to start a new life. And I was, you know, I grew up around, you know, very multicultural environment where everybody was just trying to be cool in hip hop. It didn't matter who you are. It didn't matter what your culture was, your heritage, your ethnicity. Everybody was just trying to be cool in hip hop.
Right.
And I love that I had that experience. But like New York is New York. I mean, do I really have to go into details about like the?
But you know, hip hop is its
challenges?
own culture. I feel like
Yes.
even just talking about it right now, there's so many elements to it that.
Yes.
You know, my question is, how do you feel like hip hop has influenced your life, like throughout the years? What did you see the influence like in your life with hip hop?
I think there's this attitude that I think y'all are like really seeing its manifestation at this stage in my life where I've been through so much that maybe like I think when I hit like 40, I think that's when I kind of was like, you know what, this is who I am. I don't care like what my flaws are or whatever mistakes I may have made. This is who I am. And that still was a journey after that, because that's a whole other story. But you know, being a part of Voices of San Diego and like that really spontaneous element that y'all saw in the last performance. That was my first performance, by the way.
You did.
That's the first time I've ever been part of the performance choir.
Yeah.
So, and then that was really one of the first times in my life where, I mean, I'm an educator and I've given talks and presentations. Like I don't have fear of being up in front of people, but that was like, what y'all saw was like I was just completely just fearless and just in my element. And so to answer your question, I would say that attitude, I don't mean attitude like, I don't mean like that. I mean like I'm gonna do my thing and whatever, however y'all take it, great. If you don't like it, that's cool too. It might hurt a little bit. It might suck a little bit. We're all kind of fragile humans, you know?
Yeah.
But attitude.
Yeah, because it's like that attitude. You don't have to like it, but you will respect it.
Yes. That you
And-
put it better than I did. Yeah, for sure.
And it even goes back, I feel, with you coming from New York. I feel that that's an attitude that it really identifies New York for being like, you know, you don't have to like me, but you will respect me no matter what it is. And I feel that goes along with hip hop too.
Yeah, I was talking with one of my coworkers yesterday. He's a young man from out here. And when I said, "Oh, I'm from New York," he's like, "Oh, that makes sense." And I'm like, "Yeah, from the first moment I moved here back in 2006, I had to learn, like being in bars and meeting new people or wherever I was. I had to learn to pull back because it could be overwhelming."
Yeah.
For certain people, like, whoa, what's up with the aggression? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And then you know, lost opportunities, you know, socially, romantically. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I got to pull back because like it could be too much. And being on the West Coast, y'all know very well. There's a vibe, you know,
more chill.
Way more chill, and that's what makes hip hop, like you were saying, way just more. It makes it just that much more beautiful because you had your East Coast, West Coast rivalry. Okay, fine, that sucked because of the results of that, you know? But it was also amazing because, like, Dre, you know, and Death Row, they had their own vibe, like cool, like, you know, what y'all call those? The cars
with the lowriders.
With the lowriders. Yeah. Like you just kind of like bounce and chill. And then East Coast had a grimy, sometimes aggressive, sometimes like, you know, weeded out kind of, you know, thing. But the weed thing, of course, was common. You know. You know, when I was into that, I'm at a different age and stage of life where I don't find that valuable. I don't talk down on it. But, you know, at a certain point, we all just kind of grow out of certain things. Yeah. But I'm able still to enjoy the music and, you know, tolerate, you know, that expression of, hey, let's get high. And I'm like, well, you don't have to in order to get into this thing, you know. But again, that's a whole other topic of conversation. You can enjoy the music
for the music, you know.
Yes,
of
correct.
It all.
In the culture.
So you've had a journey, right?
Yeah.
You before we started recording, you said, you know, I've had a journey. You want to elaborate or talk about that for a little bit?
So I grew up in the, you know, like so many black families, especially parents from the South. I grew up in the church, non-denominational. I was a church kid. I sang in the youth choir. So, you know, again, you want to talk about latent potential, talents, and abilities that they lay dormant for like decades. Yeah. And then they come back here. But anyway, and so I loved going to church. I'm not one of those people that talks down on church. I loved my church family. The people loved me. I always felt loved. I always felt cared for. It was a multicultural church. Again, all different types of people in the South Bronx. You know, so it was beautiful up until the point where, like so many churches in the 80s, there was this, I don't know what happened I don't know what it was about the 80s.
The 80s, man.
The 80s, I don't know. But like, we got, you know, our pastors that were really like solid church leaders, they left. I was confirmed in the church. I was baptized as a kid, just to throw that out. You know, the full experience, you know, the full Monty. Youth choir program and youth education and all that. And then we got this preacher who, ironically, my name is Lerron Richard Wright. Richard, my middle name, that's my father's name. The preacher that came into this church, I mean, I don't care about saying his name now. He's probably gone anyway. His name was Richard Wright. And he like looking, now that I know what a narcissist is, he completely destroyed that church. He had people... friends that my mother had for decades, or boom, all of a sudden, like almost overnight, enemies. Church split, church funds gone.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about, actually. I feel like I've seen a documentary on him.
Look.
I don't know if it's the same person I think you're talking about, but...
I wouldn't be surprised at all, because I think this guy had a history before and after our church.
Yeah.
I mean, just destroyed it. And so that church has never been the same ever since. I won't say the name of the church because there's still people that probably go there, and I don't want to put them out there. But this guy, I don't mind saying his name because, again, testimony. People need to know who these people are. But anyway, I ended up going to Georgetown University. I had the privilege of going to Georgetown University, Catholic University, Jesuit University.
Congratulations.
And if y'all know anything, I'm sorry?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it was amazing. And, you know, if you know anything about the Jesuits, you know, they're very liberal. And so I took an introduction to biblical studies course, and that was the first time I realized, wait a minute, this isn't just like blind faith. Like there's a history and there's a politics that goes into the construction of the books that go into the Bible, let alone the books that didn't make it into it. You know, and like that really kind of, you know, and like so many people in the 80s and 90s in the New Age movement, you know, I kind of went that route. Never atheist though. I never stopped believing in God. Right. But I did obviously lose faith in, and still don't have a tremendous amount of faith in religious organizations. Right. I think they may even be worse today in many, many cases. If y'all get a chance, check out this movie, Mickey 17. That just came out with Robert Pattinson. They go there. Yeah, it's nuts. But anyway, that's a side note. So I spent the 90s and 2000s, you know, in that new age kind of movement, kind of floating in and out of, digging up on the philosophy of Buddhism, the kind of multi-religious aspects of Hinduism. The only tattoo I have is a Taoist symbol. It means mind, body, and spirit, and feet moving forward together in one path, one in one way, in one. So even as a Christian, I don't call myself Christian, by the way. I would call myself a follower of Christ. Mm-hmm. And so, just to wrap all of that up, I just wanted to give you the background of like the last couple of years. You know, again, I don't want to go into too much detail because some people just wouldn't believe me, but I'll just say this much. Evil is real in this world. And I don't just mean evil people. I mean evil forces. I mean evil influences. Very, very real. They work through human beings. They work outside of human beings. And I experienced a lot of that over the last couple of years. And I'm thankful for that because it brought me back to where I started. Right. To wrap up this story. It brought me back to Christ. It brought me back to what faith really means. What following his way really means. And that also means you got to go through some struggle. You got to go through some trial and travail. Yeah. And that's really what led me to y'all through Dr. P.
Dr. P.
Dr. P.
Yeah, everybody know Dr. P.
Everybody know Dr. P.
I worked with her at the city of San Diego, which I don't work there any longer, but she had been trying to get me to get me to come. I don't know for months, and I don't know why I said no. Yeah. I don't know why I said no, but now I'm grateful that I said yes.
That's right.
Well,
and I've been here too. Since I think late December.
And how has your experience been in the community?
I have not missed a Monday. Every single one of those Mondays, there's a moment where like I just want to cry. And not out of sadness, because some of these people, what was her name that got on yesterday? And like at the end,
Beckett.
Becky.
Oh yeah, Becky.
Oh
she
my
sang the solo.
God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they sing. Yeah, they do a
Oh
great job.
Lord have mercy. Just move. I'm moved every Monday that I'm here. I'm moved.
Yeah, she comes from a real family of musicians and.
Oh, so clear, so soulful.
We had a cool
so
interview.
Unassuming, and then she gets up there and does that. You're like, what? Like, where did that come from? You know?
Yeah.
It's that's my experience.
Yeah.
Just moved every Monday. Just moved.
And even from just hearing your story, like, it seems like music has always been a big part of your life.
Oh yeah.
Ever since you were young, like going in from the church up to now, like seems like music has been a reoccurring theme. So how would you say that has played a part in your life as like maybe a healing force? Because for me at least, I feel like music has been sort of that healing nature when I don't feel I have anywhere to go, or I don't really feel like anybody understands me, but I know there's always some artist, some album, some music that will understand me.
Yeah, I mean, music has been a part of, I never really thought about it until you just like really broke it down like that. But music has been the anchor through everything, through relationships, through friendships, personal healing. I had opportunities in Chicago to DJ, because I DJ house music. House music is my thing now. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not into hip hop, but hip hop's a little different today than it was. I'm stuck in the 90s when it comes to hip hop. I'm sorry, y'all. Call me old. Call me.
I'm guilty too.
Like I'm not saying that the new cats or I'm not denigrating them at all. It's just so different. Some of it I just don't even want to turn it on and listen to. But
evolution.
It
just moves.
It just moves. Yeah. So no need to judge it, right?
Yeah. It's different stages of hip hop and even house music, because I enjoy it too.
Oh yeah.
It's very I feel like it's moved through a lot too.
Oh yeah, and it's coming back to the 70s, because like a lot of the music that I DJ are just remixes of disco songs, and like old funk. R&B songs from the 70s and 80s, and even sometimes into the 90s.
What's your DJ name, man?
I don't go DJ whatever. My name is El Ranyo.
I like your name.
El Ranyo.
Right.
El Ron. When I was in high school, my name is Lerron. So one of my buddies, he said El Ron, and I think he meant like L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I was called Wrong Way Ronnie Wright. You know, like they just always had these like cool, like funny nicknames that were never denigrating. But I liked Elron.
Yeah.
I just like Elron. So and like
Elron,
yo. That's a New York thing. You know, I don't know. Maybe not just a New York thing, but like, you know,
I identify it more.
I use yo all the time.
Like yo, you know, like that was our thing. Yo, what's up? You know. So yeah, music has been. You know, I used to do, you know, mixtapes for, you know, girls that I wanted to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then I would throw like audio snippets in between the songs.
Today would be a playlist.
Today you just do a playlist.
We made mixtapes.
Yeah, we're not
you
doing.
Sit there and you would think about like what song I want to put on this tape next.
Right, you want to take whoever the listener is on a soundscape, and that's pretty much what I do when I'm blending house music. I'm very intentional on what kind of, like if I'm doing like an hour long kind of, because I post my mixes online, and people from around the world, or you know, you have the opportunity to get feedback from them, and I've gotten a lot of like really positive, awesome feedback, and so yeah, music is huge for me, huge.
Where would people be able to find your mixes?
Oh, so it's house-mixes.com. And then you can do the / Elron, ELRONYO.
Perfect. We'll also include that in our links.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I
Write
mean,
it down
just
for us and we'll.
Yeah, no problem. I haven't posted a mix in a while, but I've got 5 in queue that I'm gonna be posting pretty soon.
So how's that creative process like when you're thinking about, you know, you want to take the listener on a voyage? Like what goes on in your mind when you're, you know, you want to do it, the next house mix?
A lot of it is just luck, because it just depends on what songs are available on the sources that I get music from.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm very picky. I don't want to just put out anything. Sometimes I do, just because I want to do a mix. For me, doing a mix is literally spiritual. Like, again, going back to what you were saying, that it's very, very spiritual for me. It's not just cognitive, because you have to figure out like, okay, how to blend these songs in ways. It's technical, because you got to do your highs and your lows, and you know what I mean. So like you're always creating neural pathways in ways that's healthy and beneficial to your brain. But for me, it's also just, I don't know, these songs. Again, it depends on the quality of songs that's out there. Like sometimes it'll take me a month to get enough songs that I want to put into an hour-long set, just because a lot of the music will just be so-so. I don't want to just do so-so. I want to do like the best of what I like.
Right.
And usually the feedback is pretty good. You know, it's like any social media. You get your likes and your listens and and all that stuff. So that's how I know when I've done a good mix before I get all that, because I like, oh God, I can't wait to put that mix out there. And then the feedback is usually that. Sometimes I'm like, that mix is okay, and then the feedback will be exactly what you would expect.
And how do you deal with feedback?
Most of it is positive. So I have like if your mix sucks, they're not gonna say, hey, your mix sucks. They're not, like, nobody in the DJ world is gonna do that. I think there's a kind of understood respect.
Right.
If you're not into it, don't say anything. I've never gotten negative feedback. So dealing with positive feedback, well, I mean, how do we all deal with positive feedback? It makes us feel great. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel valid. It makes us feel...
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that your validation is not solely based on somebody's feedback.
Right.
I mean, yes, there's a call and a response to art and what we do. Mm-hmm. But you can't only rely on that. If you know you've done your best, and if you know you haven't done your best, then you got to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just thinking back to the show when you performed, I gotta say, I bow down. You did such a great job. Like, because me and Enrique, we actually, during the show, we stood up a little higher so we could get a better view of the whole crowd. Mm-hmm. And you can just see the crowd bumping up and down. As soon as you went in doing your verse, your rap verse, it just seemed like the crowd exploded. Like, it was so nice. I really commend you. I'm curious, like, have you written your own raps before? Have you rapped before?
I have written before, and I still have them. I've written stuff. I've written in the 90s. I've written in the 2010s. I had a buddy that I lived with in Barrio Logan for a little bit. And we would, that was back in the days when we kind of weed out a little bit, and we'd just sit on his porch and just freestyle, and just go for it. And, I'm a lot less inhibited these days than I was back then, believe it or not. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I'm way less inhibited today. And again, these latent things that I want to start exploring more. I'm glad you asked that, because yes, I have written, and but again, I've had to deal with so much adversity that sometimes writing would help, you would think, but when you have to worry about how you're going to eat that day, it's hard to be creative.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's hard to be spiritual. It's hard to pray when, you're like, where am I going to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to focus in that way. Right. But I'm grateful for the experiences, because it breeds resiliency, it breeds faith, it breeds courage, strength, expansion.
Yeah. It builds up your person, and it makes it so strong and even more unbreakable. If you can go through that, you can go through even more.
Yeah.
And
the Lord will test that, that's for sure.
And even through using your lyrics and lyricism, you can really express everything you've been through. Once you have that time where you sit down and the words I'm pretty sure are going to just flow out of you. Once you sit down and you want to write a song, I would really be interested to listen to any of your verses.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You can come down to Voices Studio, we recorded right here.
Yeah, that'd be cool. To tell you the truth, I think I still got just a little tiny bit more healing to do first.
Yeah.
But this experience, the feedback, the opportunity that this organization gives all of us to express, and I want to sing too. I want to develop a singing voice as well as whatever a style of hip hop would be for me in that expression. And I feel like it's coming. It's coming.
Sounds like some conscious rapping coming.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that this morning. So I mentioned some of the earlier influences, but Public Enemy was huge. And you brought up KRS-One, of course.
Oh, I seen him too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Just recently, I seen him at the holding company.
He has a new song out.
Oh yeah.
He has I forget what it's called now. But it's look it up on YouTube. Yeah, he's still doing his thing.
South Bronx.
Yeah. I would even be interested seeing what you would come up with, with all your influences, and especially that you enjoy house music, you coming up with your own beat, your own lyrics. I would love to see what you come up with. And creativity just flowed through you.
Well, I appreciate it. That's definitely some motivation.
Yeah.
It adds to motivation. I was huge into rock music, back in 80s and 90s, I even got into Guns N' Roses for a little bit, and Nirvana, the whole grunge scene was, I thought, again, 90s. I'm stuck in the 90s, our parents were stuck in the 70s and 60s or whatever, you know what I mean? Or 80s, whatever the case may be. Some of y'all are young, so.
But they're a part of us. I feel like music plays such a big influence in the way that it shapes us.
Yes.
I mean, for me, I didn't grow up in the 90s. I grew up in the 2000s. It's a little different, but I still I feel like I got a lot of that little bit of the last of the 90s influence.
Oh,
the hip hop, and I listen to a lot of music in Spanish, and just that I feel has shaped me in a way to where I have kind of a tough exterior, because I get confused a lot by people think I'm from New York. I'm not from New York.
You have a thing.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I'm from LA.
Oh,
different
that
coast.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a different coast.
Oh yeah, but it's a thing.
It's a thing, and I get that a lot.
Yeah.
But now that I think back to it with our conversation, I'm like, yeah, I feel like that does play a big part in why maybe I have this like tough exterior, because I grew up on listening on rap music too, and
of course.
and like corridos and stuff like that. That kind of genre of music, I feel toughens you up, and you're like, yeah, I'm ready for anything. Like, okay, like what's next?
Yeah, I get that scent from you for sure. Nothing but positive love, by the way.
It's all positive
amazing.
love,
Yeah, for sure.
It's a trip to see, because DJing is one of the elements of hip hop. MCing is one of the elements of hip hop.
Yeah.
Move the crowd. But how it just created a culture, and how it just, it just moved through, it's worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
And how from that DJ it morphed into other ways of DJing, and but from my study of history, it started with two turntables and a microphone, and back in the days they would cut up beats and breaks, and people would rap over them, and then now you have DJs that are DJing in all kinds of different genres, so.
Yeah, Sugar Ray.
Yeah.
Oh, we need a scratch here. Thanks, DJ. Back to the song.
Also, how did you get into DJing, like house music? How was that?
So in when we were in DC for college, I had different groups of friends. I was always blessed to be like just a social butterfly. I could just meet a lot of different types of people. So I had one group of friends. We go to this place called, I think it was called Tracks, if I'm not mistaken, in DC. Probably not there anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. But anyway, it's like a multi-level club, and we go there. This is back in the days, la da dee da da da. Oh. She's homeless, Crystal Waters, that time period. And once I graduated and moved back to New York, I had another buddy. My buddy, his name was DJ Maniac. He did a couple of house parties back in the day. I was buddies with him, and I'd hang out with him on weekends, and he would mix. We'd go to record shops down in the East Village, and he'd buy single albums, and he'd bring them home, and he would mix. And he would mix vinyl. This is only vinyl. This is still 90s, so early to mid 90s, and that was back in my days when I'd be doing my thing, and I like it was it was like programming.
Yeah.
And then eventually I'm like, I just never stopped loving house music. Yeah. And then, of course, different genres of EDM, electronic dance music, drum and bass became a thing. And I got into trance for a long time. And, then when I was in Chicago, like I said, I really started getting more and more into it. Of course, it's Chicago. That's like that in Detroit are like the homes of your old, like it's really Chicago, Detroit. You can argue which one first, and then New York. You know what I mean when it comes to house music. Mm-hmm. But I had a couple opportunities to DJ a club thing, and after that, I was like, I love this. And then I moved back to the East Coast and did a couple of parties. But then that's when I started getting into writing, because I'm a writer too, by the way. Y'all. I haven't even brought that up. I wrote a book last year that I don't know how to publish it.
Yeah, talk to Shairi and Dennis.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that. And then I started a career in writing. Like I was a journalist while I was teaching writing as well too. So I did, and then I moved out here. I wrote for Tony Robbins. Do y'all know who Tony Robbins is? Yes. I was a creative writer for him for a few years, and then that's when I was a freelance writer. So then in that point, I was in the personal development field, and so I would write for all these different people who were in that field, in the corporate level and the personal level. And then when I went back to my second grad school for religious education back in 2014, I promise I'm going to wrap this story up. One of my advisors had a class called something, I don't know, something spiritual, something. And then I was like, you know what? I want to investigate the spiritual effects of house music. And so I had like kind of fellow students listen to songs, and I'd do like a pre kind of test of how they felt, and then a post test of how they felt. And like after that, I was like, that's when I really, really, really sincerely got into house music DJing, like professionally, like messing with the levels, which I never did before.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was like real, you know? So I hope that answered your question of how I got into.
When's the book release?
As soon as I can.
Dr. P, I think, wrote about 8 books already.
Yeah, she's released like 8 books.
I know, like I said, y'all, there's just one thing after another after another. I got to sort it all out.
I just
like
gotta say,
I got so much stuff that I want to do.
I'm in awe with you. Like, I am in awe. Like, you are such an interesting person.
Oh, wow, thank you.
You have, like, honestly, I feel like I've learned so much about you today that I'm like, is there something you can't do? Like,
fly.
Like, you can, it seems like you can do it all. Like, you are an extraordinary person. You're such a creative person.
Thank you.
You should feel so proud of yourself.
Thank you.
You really should.
Thank you very much.
Because I just your props. Like, I can't even find the words, honestly. Like, you should be so proud to be that creative, you know. You do it all, you know. You write music, you write books, you know, you DJ, you're fully like immersed in that creative side of you that a lot of people have a hard time getting into, and it's so special.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. And you know, we get caught up in having to make money, you know what I mean, in this fallen world of ours, and we kind of sometimes, and I know I've been guilty of that, you know, of like putting everything you just said. I've put that, I got to make this money, I got to get this apartment so I could afford this, so I could afford that.
Yeah.
I just got to say, I'm giving props right back to Voices of San Diego, this organization that gives people like us who have been through trial and travail, who gives us the opportunity to really take these props that you're saying out loud and say, believe, we're here to support you. But you got to believe in you. And I'm finally like getting there.
Yo. So I just had to do that, you know what I'm saying? But one of the things that we created this podcast was because a lot of people look at the choir and they just see a choir.
Yeah.
They don't know the individual story. They don't know choir members. So we wanted to do this podcast so people could get to know, you know, who your choir member is. Even choir members that are in the community sometimes don't know about other choir members. So when they hear the podcast, they're like, whoa, like she just said, like, we're blown away by, you know, your story and your journey. And, you know, another thing that we believe in at Voices is the power of creativity. And for me, that's been something that's moved in my journey as well, like the power of creativity to heal, to voice out, you know, your thoughts, to connect with other people in the community. So it's been a real pleasure to have you here and to be able to hear, you know, your story. And I was excited because I was like, dude, this dude was born in the birthplace of hip hop, and I just want to ask him a couple of questions on that. And then I was telling her, because she's, what's the theme? And I'm like, you know, this is what I want to do, and then we'll just see how it flows, you know. And I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, that felt really good. Thank you so much.
It flowed beautifully.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It has been great, because stories like yours are what make up Voices of our city choir. You know, everybody has their own little story going on, and not a little story, it's a big story, honestly. It's a big story that makes this group what it is. That's why there's so much emotion behind those songs and behind those concerts, because all that emotion, all those feelings, they all come together and they unite as one voice.
Yes.
They really do.
Yes.
So believe, because I believe, and we look forward to having you here again. Maybe when the book release comes, or when the next
speak
mix,
a little bit about more on that.
Mega
at that
mix comes out.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for giving me a chance to tell my story. I appreciate it.
This is Sounds of the Sidewalk, and we're out, yo. Thank you for listening to Sounds of the Sidewalk, and we leave you with this Lerron rocking the mic open rehearsal.